You don't have liabilities, which I think could be an advantage, right? So we always talk about, like in traditional business, like in a retail setting, your inventory is how you make money and is also your crutch. If inventory sitting on the shelf does not make you money. You have to sell it in order to make money. If it doesn't move, you're not making money.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to this 3-part new series on a call to leadership. I'm your host, Dr. Nate Salah, and today with my business co-hosts on this Monday series, Travis Revelle and Sam Salah, we explore the X factor of the customer service experience, an essential of trust and brand loyalty, the aspect of consistency. Does consistency matter? Will we lose customers if we cannot maintain it? Boy, it's going to be a barn burner. Can't wait for you to join us. I'm Dr. Nate Salah, and this is a call to leadership. Sam, Travis, we're here.
Yeah.
Another wonderful set of episodes
Yes.
on this Business Monday. Good to have you.
Good to be
We've been
here.
having so much fun with this. I
Yeah.
just want to take a pause for our audience. It's as much fun for us to sit here and have conversations that we know will impact people in a positive way in their business, their family, and their life. And so it's just a treat.
I agree.
It's a true treat. And Sam is going to be our comic relief today.
Yeah.
So,
I'm here to make you laugh.
all right. It's not that difficult.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that looking at you makes me laugh, because that would be really mean and out of my character.
No. But we'll see where this goes.
So, do you guys have you guys ever used Airbnb?
I've
Ever?
used VRBO, but not Airbnb.
Verbo?
We have
Verbo.
used Airbnb, and we're also staying in Airbnb.
You are?
during the Christmas.
Have all of your experiences with Airbnb been like stellar?
We haven't had issues, but I know there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
My wife usually books those, so
Right. Well, Airbnb is hurting right now, and
Yeah.
Travis will speak to that just in a moment. But we recently started the Airbnb journey last spring. So we thought, we're going to take a little break from hotels, and partly because during the pandemic, hotel prices were down, and then they spiked. I noticed that. I mean, and we don't stay at $1,000 hotels, but mid-range, sort of, like a Lowe's hotel, or maybe an upper-ended, a Hilton.
Lowe's, the gas station, has hotels.
Yeah, Lowe's, yeah, the gas station.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you're too successful to stay at a Lowe's gas station.
EWS,
Yeah,
right?
Lowe's.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
And not to knock them or anything, but I noticed that some of the service quality had decreased, and even the room cleanliness. And I know that there's staffing issues, and there's real problems in organization. We've talked about this in other episodes. But I'm like, wow, it's $500 a night, and could we be doing better in our finances? So we thought we're going to just give this Airbnb a try last spring when we go on our annual after-tax season vacation. So we go to our first Airbnb, and it's nice. We basically booked like 3 of them in different places. And then the second Airbnb, it looked nice in the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get there, and it's just so this was in St. Augustine, Florida. And if you've ever been to St. Augustine, it's a beautiful old city. And it was right, it said it's right in the downtown area, perfect access to everything. And it turns out it was in like the back of a parking lot, and there was a huge dumpster
No access
right
to
next
anything.
to it, and it was all gravel. And we had our 2 dogs with us, our 2 pups. It's like, okay, where are they going to go to the bathroom?
Right.
And boy, what a great view of this dumpster. And I messaged the Airbnb host, and I said, hey, look, this is just not acceptable. I mean, this was not disclosed. You should have taken some pictures of the entire place, because none of the reviews, we read all the reviews, and none of the reviews mention that for whatever reason. And so I asked for a refund, and the response was, I said, I'm not staying here. Sorry. Too late. You can get, what was it? You can get 50% back of the nights that you hadn't stayed, not including today. And that was, I was only there 2 days. So I'm like, so you're going to give me half of 1 day back, and then you're keeping my service fee. you're keeping my cleaning fee. So it ended up being like I don't know, $87. I'm like, you know what, just keep it.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Just keep it. You need it more than I do.
Right.
So it was kind of a bad taste, but
bad customer service.
But I still, but I still thought, okay, maybe it's just a one-off. And then we booked a 2-week in Florida the next day with an Airbnb, and we had to change the date because our plans changed, and the pricing was a little less for the date change, but the host said, I can change your date, but I'm not going to give you a refund from the difference in price. It's like, okay, that's fine. It was like $150, but why?
Yeah.
Right? So then the date had to change again just because of circumstances, right? And I said, well, we're going to have to change, no problem. And I didn't know what that exact date was going to be. So it was about 6 weeks out, and I messaged and said, hey, look, we want to come in December now. And it was like sometime it was like middle September or end of September. And the host responds and says, I'm sorry, it's too close to the date. I can't change it. Or I refuse to change it. You can either come or forfeit.
Great options they gave you, didn't they?
And you pay half down and then pay half. And it wasn't a lot of money. I think the whole thing was $2,500, but still, it was like $1,200. I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
You're going to book it.
Right.
It's Christmas time,
Yeah.
And so that was, that was like strike 2. I had another one who I had an issue with the same, it was the same time, basically. I messaged them maybe 4 days before our son was sick. We just couldn't make the trip. And of course he didn't have trip insurance or anything like that. I said, hey, is there any way I can move this out? Sure. No problem. No extra charge. So you see, we have a problem.
Yeah, there's no consistency. Mm-hmm. And so did you ever reach out to Airbnb? Like, is there a way to reach out to Airbnb? Do they take any ownership over what happens?
They do not.
See, eBay holds it's kind of weird because if you take the same framework with eBay is very buyer, they lean very friendly. Yeah. So if you have a problem on eBay, it's pretty easy to get your money back. Mm-hmm. It's almost seems backwards based off what you're telling me.
Well, there's a disclaimer in in some of the changes if the host accepts your change. So it's they're using the brand of Airbnb, but they're not holding the people who actually.
So Airbnb is just basically the platform.
Intermediary, right?
Yeah.
They're a little I wouldn't even say like a Priceline because Priceline actually stands behind.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so true, and it's you hear great things about Airbnb, and I'm sure lots of people have great experiences with Airbnb. But in these types of situations, man, you're really rolling the dice.
You really are,
and it's not cheap.
It's not cheap. I don't think it's inexpensive. So for example, just as we were talking, so I go onto Twitter. I talked about Twitter before, so I'm tweeting now. But I look up Airbnb's trending, right? So here's somebody who had this is their breakdown of their invoice, right? And this is what gets me. So the location that they were renting was $383 a night. Not a cheap place, right? That's a decent hotel room, right? Right there. The cleaning fee was $365. The service fee was $105.70, and the occupancy taxes and fees were $132.43, bringing the one night total to $986.83, which is non-refundable.
Is that disclosed when you book?
Well, when you book, a lot of them have a 48-hour window to cancel. Some of them have a halfway mark window. Some of them are all the way up to 2 weeks. It just depends on the individual property, right? So for our retreat that we've got coming up for our leadership group, it's actually a real generous one. It's all the way up until 2 weeks before, and you can cancel for 100% back. It's rare I see that.
Yeah.
Rare I see that. Usually it's 50%. It's gone after 2 days. So yeah, if you change your mind,
right, for
any reason,
right,
after 48 hours of booking it, you've lost half your money. And some of these are expensive. Our one in St. Augustine, 3 nights was $2,700. I mean, that's a good
Yeah,
clip. I mean,
that's-
yes,
yeah.
it's a historic house.
Yeah.
It's got a pool, all this
Right.
other stuff. It's really neat,
Yep.
but it's like a huge investment.
So I'll show you the difference. Like, I just returned something on Amazon. I ordered something. I didn't return it because I never received it. It never got to me. It said your package may be lost or whatever. I don't know if you ever had that before. I clicked, okay, refund. I had my refund in like 24 hours. I'm guarantee you, whoever sold me that, you know, Amazon is working out the logistics.
They're working it out.
But they're quick to give me my money back.
Yep.
So like I think
Good point.
that's why people
point.
buy on Amazon, you know, and it's, man, I mean, realistically, if you don't take care of your customers, I mean, that's what's going to happen.
So there's a new app that I started using. It's called StockX, right?
Yeah,
It's for shoes.
For
you know?
shoes, yeah.
And so what's unique about this is, you know, you buy your shoe, you know, you bid on it, whatever, right? You buy your shoe, they send it to StockX and they verify that it's real, right? So I've bought 3 pairs of shoes in the past month on StockX. 2 of them, when they got to StockX, were fake. They weren't
No
actual
way.
shoes, right? And so what StockX does is then they go out and they find those shoes from another buyer. They guarantee the price that you paid for them. They take care of it. They handle everything and they ship you your shoe, but they keep you up to date.
Yeah.
But they don't charge you an up fee, which they may had to have spent more money purchasing the shoes that I ordered at a certain price, but they take care of the customer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I won't buy shoes outside of StockX now, you know?
Total brand loyalty now.
Total brand
because
loyalty.
They take care of you. There's a consistency of the experience. That's another piece that when you, as any business, right, or any leadership, family, wherever, consistency equals some level of trust, right? And so, like with Amazon, it's so consistent. Your experience. Same thing happened to me with I bought a outdoor dining set, and only part of the set got there, so that the chairs got there, but the table didn't get there. And so I contacted Amazon. They're like, so sorry, we'll just go ahead and get that back. If you want to reorder it, you can, and that's fine. They instantaneously gave me my money back. The irony is they never came back and picked up the chairs.
Yeah.
And I set them all outside. And then I contacted them a second time and I said, hey, you know, you haven't picked up your chairs. Oh, so sorry. We'll get them. And they didn't pick them up again. I told my wife, I was like, what should I do? You know, and of course I am from the west side of Chicago. not that I'm disparaging Chicago, but hey, if you don't come get your stuff, it's my stuff.
Right.
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 And what am I going to do? Really? I'm
You
not
tried.
going to like drive
You tried
it
to
over to the
you're trying to
Amazon.
return it.
Yeah. So I put it in the basement. I'm just going to give it over the winter. They come get it. I'm not going to keep calling them every single week to say, hey, come get your stuff.
Sometimes it costs more for them to come get it.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
I'm thinking that it's like they're not going to do it. But the point is that will I stop buying from Amazon because of that? No, it's just the opposite. I'm like, wow, these guys are nails. They stand by it. Now, they're not always perfect like many companies. But you know what my wife said after all this Airbnb fiasco? Take a guess. We are never going to get another Airbnb again. I'll take my chances elsewhere because of the consistency of negative experiences and the inconsistency in how they do business.
So how many negative experiences? So you've gone, it took you 2 to 3?
We had 1 positive
Well, okay.
and then 2 negative.
Okay. So yeah, that's pretty flexible. I think most people after one bad run, be
Because
done
you
with
don't
them.
know what to expect.
Why do people want to stay in houses? Like, why is that
Okay.
a thing? Like, that's
So,
another thing. I'm like,
I think
Good question.
I think for me, like when we do, and I guess it's Verbo. I hate saying that because I've always said VRBO,
Verbo, yeah.
right? Like you're going on vacation. You've got, I've got kids.
yeah,
Staying in a hotel room with kids is painful,
Yep.
right? Young kids,
It's a small
they
area.
go to
Oh,
bed at
I have
7:30.
I have some. I
Yeah,
know
right.
how
So
it
it's
is.
painful.
Or even a pet.
Yeah, or a pet.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah, I can
So
totally
I
see
think if it's a long, if it's more than 2 nights, like I'm gonna want a house because I want to have some room. You know what I mean? I also hate eating out constantly, so having a kitchen is always good too. Like on a long trip, you know what I mean? At least for like breakfast and lunch and stuff like that. But if I'm paying $368 for something and it turns into $968,
It's not cheaper.
it's not cheaper.
So hotels, like,
It's
you
not-
you wake up, you got your coffee there, you got a
100%.
buffet
Yep.
for breakfast, you have You know,
You have
you have all the amenities, concierge
you got
downstairs.
a problem. You
So I'm not
they
saying
fix it.
one's better than the other. I'm not. I'm just curious because I've never been like, unless it's obviously me and my family were going Denver for Christmas, so we got a house and it was more convenient to do it that way. I'm not against that. I do kind of prefer hotels. I think I lean to hotel when it's possible, but I don't think you're necessarily. I think the big sell before was like, whoa, why would you stay in a hotel when you could just rent a house for like half?
I remember.
Like, I don't think it's cheaper.
No,
is it?
I don't.
In most cases,
I don't
Most
think it's
cases,
cheaper.
no.
No, I don't think it's cheaper. Especially, I think the cleaning fees are really what kind of get you, right? I mean, because they're like $160 cleaning fees. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're going and it's you, right? If I'm going on a business trip, first of all, I don't want to stay in a house by myself. It's boring. You know what I mean? At least a hotel, you can mingle with people.
No, there's
you
no
can
way
meet
I
people,
would.
You know what I
there's
mean?
no way I
Like,
would rent a house. Yeah.
but like, why would I pay $968 to stay in a one person to stay in a loft or a house somewhere for one night?
And then the cleaning fees are also inconsistent.
Yeah.
Because obviously being in the accounting world, I'm constantly calculating. So I'm like, well, the same square footage and the same actual price, but your one cleaning fee is 3 times as much as another, or a service fee is. So there's so many different variables that Airbnb doesn't control.
So that's what I'm
It's
understanding.
disclosed when you go to make the reservation. But the point is that,
let's say you're searching for a house, right?
Yeah.
And your budget's $500 a night.
Okay.
And you're looking, you're like, okay, this is $495.
Okay.
So then you go through, you like it, you go through, and you're gonna place your order, whatever, you're gonna confirm it. All of a sudden, it goes from $495 to $1,200 a night. You know what I mean? And so they don't put it in, like, at least put it into the price that I'm searching for is the cumulative price of everything it's going to cost me to stay in that place for that.
It's like buying a car and the price tag's $30,000, but then by the time you're done with it, dealer fees, paperwork fees, finance fees, shook your hand fees.
Right.
because that's what I ask now first when I'm buying a car. I say, what's your dealer fee? Like, oh yeah, we got a $95 dock fee. That's it. Or it's $1,500 for, it's like some astronomical, like, padded fee.
That's the one.
That's the problem.
That's the one I look
And here's
for.
the other problem with that is that you're scrolling sometimes with your family, right? So we saw that property in St. Augustine. Oh, it's so beautiful. And it's right in our budget. Oh, $500 a night. We can do that, right? And then I start clicking to go through all the stuff. And now all of a sudden it's like, it's $2,700 for 3 nights. I'm like, wait a minute. If I do the math, 500 plus 500 plus 500 is 1,500. Where's just like $1,200 coming in?
Right. And that's
but then you're
significant.
committed because your family is like, this is going to be so cool.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh crap.
Right.
So you blew your budget. So these are problems in, and of course Airbnb's been around for, I think, what, 2009? When did they start? I can't remember the year they started. Maybe you could look it up. But there's growing pains in any disruptive organization. We'll talk about Uber here just a little bit, but that's a problem Airbnb is facing. Did you mention? I don't think you mentioned this yet, but their market valuation's down.
Market valuation's way down. So they're currently, as of today, they're trading like $94 a share. And when they went public, right, their IPO opened at $146 per share.
Wow.
They're down 50% currently for the year.
Buy, probably.
I mean, but here's the thing, right?
Like FTX. I mean,
right? Yeah, FTX is a great deal. I mean, but the other thing I think that Airbnb they've got a couple different pressures that are going on right now that I see. Right, one is not having transparency in the pricing, really. Right, different hosts charging different amounts, different experiences, right, based on who your host is, not based on the company itself. But also, you also are starting to hear some social issues, right, because people were able to buy these houses so cheap with cheap money, which has obviously led to our inflationary problems. But they've taken houses off the market and reduced inventory levels, which are now driving up prices on the rental market, which are pricing people out. And so, it's one of those scenarios where you have this darling of Wall Street a few years ago, right, that had these massive evaluations. They don't own property. They don't own anything.
They don't have liabilities.
You know what I mean? They don't have any liabilities. They're just a service middleman.
But all the big ones are.
And now all the big ones are, right? But now you're starting to get all these different pressures on them, right? And so what do they fall back on? right? Like, how do they take control of this scenario when the whole kind of purpose of the organization was not to have control, right? It's just a blanket kind of marketing arm, you know?
Right.
And so now they're getting hammered, and what do? Right. And so I'm eager to see how Airbnb kind of, how they pivot
Right.
and what they do in this new environment that they're kind of facing, because people aren't going to have, you know, as recession is kind of looming, they're going to be looking for cheaper routes, right?
Correct. And the pandemic has changed things too.
Hotels are back open,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. Because hotels were closed, and now, okay, we've got more options. It's going to change the way they have to do business. And they're not the only ones. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Carvana in the news. I mean,
they're down 98%.
Yeah. So like from $400 to $4,
Yeah.
you know, it's, you know, of course they're billionaire owners, you know, so their billions are less billions,
Right.
but still, I mean,
So they were like paying, like, I remember when the pandemic was going on, they were paying like insane amount for vehicles. So you would see people like post in groups and stuff like, Carvana just offered me $5,000 more than what I paid for my vehicle at the time. You know what I mean? So I was it's funny you brought that up, because I was dabbling around on our Carvana the other day, and I put a couple of my vehicles in, and they're like significantly below wholesale.
Really?
Now.
Oh, yeah.
So now they're not
Yeah.
paying anything for anything.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
like it's got back to normal, you know, because I knew people that were like, I sold my car to Carvana. I'm like, really? Like, that's like something I never would see you
Even
do. And they were like,
consider
well,
it.
they paid me so much more than what I paid for.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because, you know, a lot of industries are dropping right now. In the car industry, used cars are dropping, new cars are getting back on lots. There's more selection, you know, because obviously used cars went up when new cars weren't available because they couldn't finish building
Right.
them. You know, so
and
now
cars are sitting. I mean,
cars are sitting.
we're car guys, so I've been
Yeah.
watching as well.
me too.
Yeah.
Been all over.
Yeah, and high-end cars. And here's the other thing. We have to remember where we started. I mean, where were we in 2019, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the market was slowly increasing, right? And then, of course, the pandemic, super huge spikes. So if the market equalizes back to 2019, 2020 figures, it really is okay, because that's where they should be. You know, I mean, I was trying to buy a car for my kid for a first car, and like an $8,000, $10,000 first car. It was impossible to find something. I mean, like, I would message gone. So eventually and it's not even my character, but I was like, the first car I saw that I could buy,
Yeah.
like, I'll just take it.
Yeah.
It was out of
your
town.
whole, like,
I just
yeah.
take it. And I took it. It was it was a lemon of a lemon. I got it home. It drove fine getting home.
Yeah.
You had lemonade.
I had lemon. Yeah, I couldn't put sugar in it. So I took it to the dealer. It's like $2,400. We'll get you all set up. It's like, okay, well, at least for $2,400, it's going to be a safe running car.
Yeah.
I get it home. The check engine light's still on. Like, well, just give it 30 days. I gave it 30 days. Yeah, you know where this is going.
I know
where
a
this
little
is
bit,
going.
and I'm like, oh, that's
So-
not usually how it works.
So they're like, well, our diagnosis can only assess what is first in line in that problem, right? Like, well, you need another $2,400 to fix the next thing. And then once that's done, there may be other things. So the $8,000 car is quickly turning into a $15,000 to $20,000
Wow.
car, right? And then I said, you know what, I'm just going to cut my losses. I got a lot of buddies in the car business. One of my buddies like, I'll just take it to auction, Nate. I'll get what I can. It's like, that's totally cool. He came back 2 weeks later with a $5,000 check.
Wow.
That's what I was dealing with, right?
Yeah.
And that was part of the challenge in the pandemic. So I'm actually optimistic about some leveling out. I
It
mean,
is. It's happening right now. Everything's leveling out. Like, money's more expensive, right? So people are coming back to reality, where, hotels are open, cars are back on lots, there's jobs,
because it was like a manic phase almost. Like,
Well, I
people
yeah,
who were,
people had money.
well, let's be honest about
People
and
it.
it
free
wasn't even
money.
their
Remember
own
our
money.
People had
podcast?
free money.
What are we talking about? We were talking about people who were compensated significantly more than their value.
Mm-hmm.
I have had conversations because now the pendulum has went the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those people are looking for jobs now.
I'll still say this.
Yeah.
In one of my businesses, entry-level position that traditionally was a $15 to $16 an hour employee is now a $20 to $22 an hour employee.
100%.
and the quality of people that you get
Still
are
the $15.
oh, if that, you know what I mean? Like, I actually did the numbers. So out of 100 people that applied for a position, all 100 got phone calls or emails, right, to set up an interview. 7 people took an interview. 3 people actually showed up for an interview. 1 person was hired, and that was, probably not the greatest hire, but we need to hire people. That person lasted 4 days.
Yeah.
I've heard this story.
I mean, like
Yeah,
it
No, I don't understand it. Like, did America go
mind.
through like a mental breakdown?
I don't
like, honestly, like I'm trying to like, cause it's everywhere. So it's like, what in the human, how have humans changed since COVID?
Significantly.
Right, yeah.
Like what happened?
And the funny thing about that 4-day person is you offer them $18. They say, no, I won't work for anything less than 20. You take it because you have to, and they still don't make it.
And it's not like this job is backbreaking work. It's sitting in data entry in a nice office. You know what I mean? Like lunch. You know what I mean? Like it's climate controlled. Like just show up on time.
So yeah, I think as the pendulum continues to swing, I think that there's going to be some tough days ahead for people who don't want to work for a fair wage. At the end of the day, because at the end of the day, you're not going to continue to be overpaid for your skill set. It will even out. We're still a capitalist economy and country. At the end of the day, your value is going to, I believe your value will always dictate your worth. It hasn't been for a while.
I agree, except for one caveat, unless the government gets involved.
True.
Yes.
True.
Which is
because you cannot. I mean, you as an entrepreneur, there's not much you can do if the government is paying somebody more money to stay at home than you can afford to pay that person to come work for you.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
and I think that
affects everything.
Everything
that affects everything, and back to this Airbnb thing, that affects that too, because what'll happen is if we do actually have normalization, and the feds have done. We have problems with the government, yes, but the feds have done the right thing in terms of
inflation.
Yeah, just really trying to put a stopper on this out of control inflation by raising rates. Some would argue that the way they approached it in the super rapid approach to raising them, it should have happened sooner and should happen over a longer period of time. It is what it is, but companies then who have been taking advantage of this frenzy, like an Airbnb, are going to have to make changes because people will stop using that service. They are going to have to get their act together.
Yep. Well, on top of that, Airbnb, I think it's twofold, right? And I think Uber kind of has a similar situation when the people that are actually right. So Airbnb doesn't have houses, so they rely on people like you and I to have a house to go on Airbnb, right? Interest rates go up. People aren't going to be buying Airbnbs because it's not cheap, right? It's cost them more money,
right?
And so that cost is going to be pushed onto the consumer,
correct?
And so these prices for Airbnb are going to continue to go up as the economy is going down,
right?
Uber rides, you have to have a car, you have to buy a car. It costs more money to buy a car now, so now Uber prices will go up because they have, you know what I mean? Like it's great when the economy is booming. I'm interested to see these disruptive technologies that came out, how they kind of manage themselves through a downturn in a recession, because they don't own anything. So they don't have leverage on anything.
So, but I do believe that's a good position though, because you don't have liabilities, which I think could be an advantage, right? So we always talk about, like in traditional business, like, in a retail setting, your inventory is how you make money and is also your crutch. So if inventory sitting on the shelf does not make you money, you have to sell it in order to make money. If it doesn't move, you're not making money. Remember we talked about like why Costco is so successful because they turn their inventory so fast. If you don't have to turn any inventory, if you're just a middleman, like a logistics company like Amazon, right? Don't have products, they're just a logistic company. Are you really that affected by something like that? Now, your liability is your platform. How am I dealing with customer issues? What's my customer service look like? I think their fix is holding their landlords more accountable for taking care of the customers that buy through Airbnb, and I think that'll fix it.
I would say in a traditional business model, yes, but what you got to take into consideration is that all these companies are public, so they're beholden to their shareholders, right? And when you have a 50% drop within a year, right, of your share price, that's who you're beholden to. You know what I mean? So if your revenue starts to drop and your shareholders are losing money, right? Like you can find yourself in a Carvana situation very quickly where people start shorting you. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden you go from $400 to $4.
Yeah.
You know? So there's a lot.
What was that fluff though? Like was
100%
Airbnb?
it was
I mean,
fluff.
what was
it was fluff?
Yeah, I mean,
Speculation.
it wasn't real.
It's not real.
So at the end of the day,
I'd be willing to say 98% of this.
Yes, our entire public financial system is based on speculation.
Yeah, it's not real. I've been in it. It's monopoly.
It's a Vegas
money.
casino.
Oh, it's beyond a Vegas casino.
It's a Vegas casino.
Yeah. I mean, that's why, Mad Money and, all these great shows, right, are, saying what they think might happen in the future, right? And of course you've got, now some of these, some of the speculation, most of it is based on data, right? Yeah. But you can only make decisions based on the data you have at the time, right? Mm-hmm. Which means tomorrow, your data may change.